Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The Stock Movers Report, your roundup of companies making moves in the stock market, harnessing the power of Bloomberg data.
Now let's look at some of the stocks on the move today here in Europe. I'm Caroline Hepker alongside Jemana Basecci. Joining us now is Bloomberg reporter Chloe Millay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Friday. Rheinmetall shares still climbing. This on the back of tensions, though, in Europe. More of these drone sightings.
Yeah, absolutely. So Rheinmetall, but then also other defense stocks like Saab and Leonardo were up this morning on the back of those growing tensions in Europe, and what also looks like to be kind of an expansion of those tensions more and more towards Western Europe. So you mentioned those drone sightings that led to flight suspensions at Munich airport, and we've seen more and more of those drone incursions lately in Europe. There were also other stories today that kind of show this ramping up of tensions. Poland ordered a Russian ship to leave its waters after the ship was found to be very close to a gas pipeline. And Zelensky said that he expects Ukraine to be able to secure those longer range weapons from the US to counter Russian airstrikes. And Putin warned that the supply of those kinds of missiles to Ukraine would mean a new stage of escalation in relations between Russia and the US. So, of course, when there is that rising hostility, shares in defense companies tend to move in tandem with that. So that's what's really been driving that industry this morning.
And a major deal in Europe, Legrand announcing it. What do we know? And how are the electric device makers' shares reacting today?
Yeah, so Legrand hit a record high this morning after announcing a big acquisition over in the US last night. So Legrand is a French company, and it makes electrical cooling equipment for data centers. And it has really been benefiting from the AI boom because there's this demand for key infrastructure for those data centers. And it's been really pursuing this through an M&A strategy. And this latest deal is quite a bit bigger than the previous one. So it bought a company called Avtron Power Solutions in a deal that is worth $1.1 billion enterprise value. And that will really expand its presence in the region and in those energy related solutions. So Avtron is expected to generate nearly $350 million in revenue in 2025. So it's quite a big company. And Legrand has been trying to expand in what is called so-called data center gray space. So that is essentially the back-end infrastructure. And analysts have said that this will be done through M&A. So this will be really boosting this outlook for Legrand going forward.
Yeah, that's an interesting company. I mean, they make like sockets and circuit breakers and solar panels. I mean, in the past for hotels and offices and things, but obviously the data center stuff's now.
Yeah, that's what really driving everything now.
Yeah, isn't that fascinating? Right, what about Raiffeisen, the EU lifting sanctions on a Russian oligarch? Just tell us about that story.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a complicated story. So essentially Raiffeisen is up this morning because it's going to get some compensation. So the FT reported that the EU is preparing to lift sanctions on assets linked to a Russian oligarch called Oleg Deripaska, and that is in order to compensate Raiffeisen for damages it had to pay in Russia. So the plan is to unfreeze shares worth about 2 billion euros in Strabag, which is an Austrian construction company that was once owned by Deripaska, and then the assets then would fall to the bank and compensate it for a 2 billion euro fine it paid in after a Russian court that ruled in favor of a business linked to Deripaska. So there's quite a lot of moving parts here, but this is really driving the shares, and it does have consequences beyond that boost to Raiffeisen. So some European officials are worrying that the move would kind of legitimize efforts from oligarchs to circumvent EU sanctions against Russia, and would really embolden Russian courts that are retaliating against those sanctions by ordering the confiscation of Western assets. So it's definitely a story to follow.
The Stock Movers Report from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.